thanks for tuning in to the first daily roundup from the 2020 Borlaug Dialogue. To discuss highlights and takeaways from today's session, I'm delighted to welcome Ambassador Ertharin Cousin, a distinguished fellow at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, a visiting scholar at Stanford Center of Food Security and Environment, and the former Executive Director of the World Food Programme. Many thanks for joining us today, Ambassador Cousin. Firstly, can you please tell us what you thought of today's sessions?
Well, I found today's sections very enlightening. As someone who spends most, if not all, of my time thinking about, writing about, and advocating for many of the issues that were discussed today, it was good to see the multi-sector actors speaking with almost one voice about what is required for us to move forward for creating a more sustainable agriculture system while also addressing the issues related to the climate impacts on agriculture and agriculture's impact on the climate.
Great. And what were some of the highlights from the first roundtable session on carbon sequestration and sustainability, in your opinion?
I think the most important and most interesting outcome from that session is the discussions around carbon sequestration are moving from theoretical to examples of what is actually happening. We've been talking about this for a while, but we've actually not been performing the work that is necessary at the farm level to actually demonstrate what works. And also what I found interesting was the farmer that was on the panel and the reality that there are some blind spots when it comes to carbon sequestration in the impact that it has on agricultural productivity in the short run, as opposed to the opportunity and the benefits that it provides in the long run. And that is something that the policymakers, investors, and others on the sidelines of agriculture have not historically discussed in these types of situations.
For sure. And it was really interesting as well to hear about the kind of no-till techniques in practice that the farmer was discussing, as you mentioned.
Yes. And his recognition that that means that equipment that you've spent a significant amount of money to purchase, to lease, now become less valuable when you move to the farming practices that require different or less equipment. And so that has that's a very real challenge for farmers who have very limited incomes, no matter where you're farming, to suggest that investments that I have made become obsolete because of practices that you're now asking me to perform.
Definitely. Okay, and the idea of carbon markets itself is not particularly new, but it obviously does seem to be gaining traction in the agricultural sector. So why do you think that is?
I think because they've become real. It is where there's an opportunity to actually benefit from a financial standpoint for farmers from these investments, then the carbon market has value. There's not been, previously there was no demonstration of actual value for carbon markets to particularly small farmers. And so as that value is becoming more of a reality, then it becomes an opportunity that is not just theory. But with farmers in particular, change is directly related to economic benefit. And when you can demonstrate real economic benefit to farmers, then those tools become much more attractive.
Okay. And what about the second roundtable from today that focused on investments for transforming food systems? What were your thoughts about that?
Well, I was very interested to hear and the perspectives of all of the members of the panel on the importance of innovation. and the recognition that it was not innovation that could be driven by any one sector alone, that it requires public sector, private sector, both coming online to support the access to research data that is necessary to change our food systems in a way that will meet both the agricultural sustainability challenges of creating a food system that provides for our growing population, but also the environmental challenges. There was dialogue around the issues related to the need for more innovative financing. There were examples given by the speakers of new tools like the moonshots for supporting research in particular areas, the private sector investment and partnership with farmers to support the scaling up of new innovations, and so I thought that overall the panel presented both the opportunities that are available, that innovations and technology can provide to addressing the challenges in our food system, but also there was an acknowledgement of the need for more R&D as well as more innovative financing.
There was also the gender element that was flagged in that sense as well,
yes,
wasn't there?
That, very much so. Hillary brought that up from talking specifically about her example from Malawi and the women who coming together without traditional collateral and the challenges that they had in raising capital that was necessary to purchase equipment, despite the fact that they had contracts in hand to support their offtake. They were still challenged in their ability to access capital. So focusing on, I think she called it women as a clientele. That is not often a specific clientele for funders, and so that was interesting to ensure that point was raised. The other point that was raised that I thought was quite interesting was a recognition that innovations and particularly digitization, new seeds, et cetera, that we need to ensure that they have an impact on not just production, but on environment. And how do we measure impacts? And I think it was Howard Buffett in particular who talked about their research around new metrics for impact. And we spend a lot of time talking about those issues, but I think that he was very clear in identifying the opportunity for measuring impact in ways that would make it that impact transferable, as well as the measurable for measurable and significant for particular projects.
Great, that's really helpful to hear your insights from that. So thank you for that. Obviously, there's an exciting agenda of further events coming up this week. I just wanted to see what you're most looking forward to on Wednesday.
Well, I'm most looking forward to my interview with President Hongbo from IFAD. He has, as president of IFAD, he has been focused on new tools for finance and ensuring that those tools not only support, as we've been talking about, the production, but the efficiency and effectiveness of the food system. I look forward to conversations that I recognize some of the lessons that we've learned or are learning now from the effects of COVID on the food system, and how we're using this phrase "build back better," bringing meaning to that in the work that is actually happening on the ground, in addressing food systems agility, as well as the efficiency and effectiveness of those food systems.
Fantastic. And my final question, the World Food Programme was obviously honoured with the Nobel Peace Prize last week for its efforts to combat hunger and improve conditions for peace in conflict areas. So as the former head of the World Food Programme, I just wanted to see what this recognition means to you.
Well, what my most common statement all day on Friday was, I am peacock proud of the entire WFP team. This is a team that the 14,000 employees of WFP are focused on the mission of saving lives and changing lives. And during this period of time when there's been a recognition that 125 million people could starve as a result of COVID's effect on economies and food systems, particularly in areas that were already suffering from high levels of food insecurity, and a recognition by the Nobel Prize Committee of the importance of the entire international community continuing to invest in the work of WFP to ensure their ability to perform that work. So it was an acknowledgement of the value and the success of the team on the ground, but it was also a call to action to the international community. And I really appreciated that reminder on the part of the Nobel Prize Committee of the importance of donor action and international support for the organization.
Ambassador Cousin, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to your session on Wednesday.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Take care.